Okay, boys and girls, we are going to be talking again about point of view. Who remembers talking about point of view last year? Point of view, very good. Now, sometimes when we're talking about point of view, we are talking, I see lots of hands up, which is good, so you can put your hands down. We could be talking about two different things, but they're related to each other. So, point of view, oh, let me put this, oh, I forgot to plug myself in. Uh-oh, so much going on this morning. So let's hope we're working here. I didn't check it to see if it worked. And it'll be just my luck that it's not working. So, has this ever happened to you? Your friend or sibling tells a story about something you did together, but it sounds different than how you remember it. Has that ever happened to you? I see lots of hands up. So that happens to everyone. A story can sound different depending on who is telling the story. We see things differently because we have a different point of view. That is one part of point of view. So I see something differently than somebody else because we have different points of view. That is one part of point of view. So I see something happening and I have my point of view. It's like, oh, does anybody ever have something happen maybe on the playground? And you think one thing happened, but the other person thinks something else has happened. Who has ever had that happen to them on the playground? Yes. And so you have your version, the other person has their version, that is their point of view. Right? That is the point of view. Now, we also have something, when we read a story, we need to know whose point of view it is being told from. Who is telling the story? So when we are reading a story, we need to know who is telling the story. That is the point of view. So we need to be paying attention to that when we're reading a story. We're thinking, who is telling the story? Because every story has someone who's telling the story. Sometimes a character from the story is the storyteller. If this is the case, you will see pronouns like I, me, and we. So we're looking for clues in the story. We're looking for a word called a pronoun sometimes. So sometimes a character from the story is telling it. They are saying words like I, me, or we, because they are in the story. Who knows what a pronoun is? Does anybody know what a pronoun is? Yeah, Eli, what's a pronoun?
Like that.
Nina, what's a pronoun?
It's like a name of something.
It's not a name of something. That's a good guess. Beckett?
It's a person's name.
It's not a person's name. Exactly. Leah?
It takes the place of a noun.
It takes the place of a noun. So it's a word that takes the place of a noun. So instead of saying their name, we use words like I. That's a pronoun. I is a pronoun because it takes the place of your name. So instead of saying, if Leah was talking about herself, she would not call herself Leah. She wouldn't say, Leah went to school today. What would you say?
I went to school today.
She would say, I went to school today. She doesn't call herself Leah, does she?
No.
She calls herself I. I is a pronoun. Me is a pronoun. We is a pronoun. She is a pronoun. Can anybody maybe think of another pronoun that they know of? Allie?
Well, I'm not so sure that it is, but I think it is he.
He, that is definitely a pronoun. You are definitely correct. He is a pronoun. Very good. What do you think, Izzy? A person's name is not a pronoun. That's a proper noun. It's a word that takes the place of a person's name. Yes, Lita?
It.
It.
Instead of saying like the ball, you could say it rolled.
Yes, instead of saying the ball, you could say it rolled. Very, very good. Lance?
They.
They. Excellent. Those are all pronouns. Good job. You guys are good. So those are all pronouns. Here's an example. Gavin, did you finish your homework? Mom called to me. Me is the pronoun. working on it, I reply. Who is telling the story? Who's telling the story? Who's telling the story? Sophia?
His mom.
Is his mom telling the story? Mikey?
Gabe.
Gavin. Gavin's telling the story. Because mom called to me. Me is Gavin. Ooh. Okay, so Gavin is telling the story because mom called to him. Now, here's another point of view. So sometimes the character is in the story. And we have a name for that, boys and girls. It is called, does anybody know what that's called? And the character is in the story. What is that called?
Narrator.
The narrator is in the story, but there's a name for that. That is called first person. Everybody say first person.
First person.
When the narrator is in the story, when they're telling the story. Okay? Sometimes the storyteller is not a character in the story. This is called a narrator. If this is the case, you will see pronouns like he, she, and they. Oh. Is this gonna help? Uh-oh, what's going on here?
I think it's the last
Is it the last one? I don't think it's the last one. No. And here's an example. Who could tell the class what an adjective is? Asked Mrs. Olson. Cade raised his hand. An adjective is a word that describes the noun, he answered. Who is telling the story? Nina?
Third person.
It's third person, and it is, who's telling the story? Madison?
Mrs. Olson.
Do you think Mrs. Olson's telling the story? Who do you think is telling the story? Mikey?
The narrator.
The narrator. Just an outside person is telling this story. We don't know who's telling the story. It is the narrator, somebody outside the story. So a lot of times we have somebody outside the story telling the story, and we call that person the narrator. And that part, or that point of view, is called third person. And third person, we have a narrator telling us what's going on in our story. When we have third person, they can tell us about everybody in the story. So that's an interesting point of view for a story. Oh, anything? Oh dear, technical difficulty. We're doing so well. Okay? Now, when you know who is telling the story, you can determine their point of view or opinion about things happening in the story. So when we have first person point of view, we can know what the character is thinking about things because they can tell us. When we have got first person point of view, that would be first person. We know what the main character is thinking because that's usually that one. So let's look. For example, happy birthday, James, I sang out. Sarah, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Why are you waking me up? James angrily mumbled. It's your birthday and I'm so excited for you. I don't want you to sleep through it, I explained. It will still be my birthday when I get up in a few hours. Go away. Who is telling the story? What is the storyteller's point of view about the birthday? Who's telling the story? Who's telling the story? Lauren. Sarah, very good. And what is the storyteller's point of view about the birthday? How does Sarah feel about the birthday? Sophia?
Sarah feels that it's important that like her sister or brother's birthday is today, and that she doesn't want her sister or brother to miss her birthday.
Whose birthday is it? James. So he's a boy. So it's her brother's birthday. And how does she feel about it? She's what?
She thinks she wants to wake her up early because she thinks that he can miss her whole entire birthday.
That he will miss his entire birthday. She is, what word could we use to describe how she feels about it?
He doesn't want her to sleep.
Him.
Him.
To sleep through it it because she's
Excited.
excited about the birthday. She loves the birthday. Very good. James is feeling maybe less excited about being woken up.
That's how it is.
This is like a little bit, now sometimes you can even determine the point of view or opinion of the other characters in the story, in the birthday story. What was James' point of view about his birthday? How does James feel about his birthday? How does James feel? Mike? He's tired. He's tired, what else? How's he feeling about his birthday? Eli?
I was about to say tired too.
Tired? Yes? Allie?
He's sleepy and angry. He's sleepy because, he explained that he wanted to sleep for
He wanted to-
couple more hours, and
He
he's
wanted to
angry.
sleep, right?
And he's angry because his sister woke him up early, so he's pretty grumpy because I bet he was
Yes.
really sleepy.
Yes, he's sleepy, he's grumpy, he didn't want to get up. Now you have a point of view about things too. What is your point of view about celebrating birthdays? How do you feel about celebrating birthdays? Madison,
Excited.
you're excited about that. Isabella,
Happy.
happy, you like them. Brody, how do you feel about celebrating birthdays?
Excited.
Excited. Reese, you have a birthday coming up in just a few days. How do you feel about celebrating birthdays?
Same thing.
Say it. How do you feel?
Happy.
Happy. Very good. Okay, boys and girls. Now, here's what I want to show you. I want to show you, and minimize this.
One more.
See? And I want to show you, we have a chart here and it says point of view. Who is telling the story? First person. The narrator is part of the story. A story told in first person point of view has a character in the story as the narrator. Readers learn about other characters from what they say to the narrator. So that's how you learn about the other characters, because they are interacting and talking to the narrator. And they use words like I, we, me. Then our second point of view is third person. The narrator is outside the story. A story told in third person point of view has an outside narrator. The narrator can tell readers what all the other characters are saying, doing, and thinking. So they know all about everybody. And they use words like he, she, and they. Okay, boys and girls, so those are the two differences between first person and third person, first and third. So, this is what we're going to do. We are going to open up our book. Marisol McDonald doesn't match.